everybody, welcome to this week's Roundup. No special announcements or anything, so let's jump right in. First up, pre-orders are now open for an official re-release of the NES game Pro Am II. The price is about $60 plus shipping, and they're due to arrive with customers this fall. And there are both 60 Hz and 50 Hz PAL versions available. So either buy it from the UK or German stores if you need PAL versions, or for whatever reason you're in the US or North America and you need a PAL version, just select that one from the drop-down menu at checkout. Now, the original version of the game seems to sell for a lot on eBay. I put a link there too, just because why not? So this is one of those scenarios in which if you wanted to use original cartridges and you wanted an official version of it, this would be the one to get. But if you were a collector that wanted only originals, you would probably want to hunt down the more expensive versions. Or of course, there's a million ways to play it for free. But obviously these physical releases are for people who are specifically looking for that. And this is a Retrobit release who have had pretty good luck recently with all of their cartridges. The edges are beveled and they seem to be built correctly, or at least correctly enough to not cause a stir or anything like that. So it seems like a safe bet at a decent price. So check out links in the post if you're interested. One more retro reissue. Retrobit is also making an officially licensed reissue of Battletoads Double Dragon for the Game Boy. And the price for this one is $45 plus shipping, and they're also due to arrive at customers this fall. And these are cheaper than even just the cartridge-only versions I've seen on eBay. So exactly like what I just talked about with RC Pro Am, this is perfect for people who want original hardware. And Retrobit also did Battletoads versions of or re-releases of the NES and SNES versions, so it kind of makes sense that they would swing back and do the Game Boy one eventually as well. One thing to note, a very good question that I've been asked a bunch of times about beveled edges for Game Boy carts. Yes, the edges do need to be beveled, but only one edge because there's only one set of pins on the Game Boy. So if you open up your cartridge and the edge that's facing the back of the cart is completely flat, but the side with the actual fingers on the PCB, that side should be beveled, as they have been in the past, I believe, with Retrobit releases. So just wanted to let everybody know that. But yeah, just another one. If you want, physical games or something, then this is the one to get. And if you want original versions, expect to pay a heck of a lot more than this, but they are out there. The Retro Fighters D6 controller is now in stock at multiple stores and ready to ship. The price is about $50 plus shipping, and this is a Dreamcast controller that also works with wireless USB and standard USB, and it's meant more for an arcade feel because it doesn't have an analog stick at all, although there's a switch on the bottom that lets you toggle it so you could use its D-pad as the analog stick for games that require it. And it's got clicky buttons and the clicky D-pad. So overall, for stuff like this, it's my personal opinion that I would use this in a scenario that I wanted a controller for arcade games or arcade style games. And I guess the perfect example of that is in my setup over here. For a while now, I've been using the Neo Geo CD controller to play, shmups and arcade games when I don't have my arcade stick out. And it just kind of felt like a good combination of stuff. It was just one of those things where it wasn't an arcade stick, but it kind of felt more like that than just using a standard USB controller or something. So I think this is one of those things where if it checks all the boxes for you, it's probably worth a purchase. It's available in both white and black. And Ryan from Arcades Games, I never know. Ryan, please correct me. I'm just going to sit here like an idiot and say the wrong thing every time if you don't. But he did a review of it a while back and seemed to really like it. And I also sent this controller as well as the 8-bit Do Neo Geo CD style and the Retro Fighters N64 controller to my friend Beast, who's a pro gamer, but he's also somebody who has a lot of experience with different controllers. I kind of recruited him to check out the Neo Geo emulation arcade machine years ago, back when I was still in New York City, and he always has really good insight into how these controllers feel and perform. Now, latency is coming in at about 2 milliseconds in wired mode and about 5 in wireless, which is excellent. So hopefully I could sit down with Beast at some point in the future and maybe just have like a short podcast going over his thoughts on these. Obviously, everybody's hands are different, how you use these games and what type, or use these controllers and what types of games you're using them on, all make a huge difference. But I do really prefer listening to people who are more of a pro gamer styles opinions on this than just relying on my own. Because for me personally, unless it's broken or really uncomfortable in my hands, then I generally like most controllers. I think the best test for me is when I get like third-party SNES controllers and I can't do the wall jump in Super Metroid, then the D-pad, most likely the rubber thing in the D-pad is probably junk and I don't want to use it. So stuff like this, I didn't put a lot of time into this controller, but I didn't feel any of that. But once again, I didn't put a lot of time into it, and I'm not a pro gamer. So hopefully I could swing back around, and maybe I could send Beast a bunch more, and we could just do one podcast talking about his thoughts on all of these and when he thinks they would apply to what scenario. And I don't care if it's 10 minutes long or an hour long. I think many of us might be interested in that because, I also think, not to ramble too long about this, but I also think as many of us adults get older and have less time to do things, I don't think we want to spend all of our time testing. I think it would be great to hear other people's opinions who have a lot of experience. So we just know, okay, like Beast likes this type of game and I do too. So I probably am going to agree, or we like the exact opposite. So maybe I'll do the opposite, whatever it is. I just think it's much easier for many of us to be, jogging or driving to work or something and listen to a podcast and get our answers that way than have to go home and test. But let me know your thoughts if stuff like that is what you would all be interested in hearing. I certainly would be, so I'll probably do it either way, but I'm always interested in your opinions on this. So fire away in the comments if you'd like. Next up, Reese just did a video about the PicoGUS, which is a really interesting piece of new retro hardware for older PCs. And it started out back in 2022 as the PicoGUS, a Raspberry Pi-based product, which was originally supposed to emulate the 1992 Gravis Ultrasound sound card for ISA systems, but it's since grown into a much bigger project that integrates the Gravis Ultrasound as well as Sound Blaster 2, MPU 401, Tandy 3 voice, and the CMS Game Blaster. And it's one of those things where if you're trying to use original PCs and you want something close to it, close to the original sound, this is a great way to do it. Now, the price is key here. $50 plus shipping from the US seller and about the same, give or take, everywhere else. But that's really cheap when you put into consideration what you're getting here. So when you have something like the Orpheus sound card, that's going to be a lot more expensive because it's more hardware based, whereas this one is going to be software emulation based via the Raspberry Pi. But it still performs excellent, and it's something that you could just slot right into your system. You have the drivers for it that are going to be available, and I just think it's a really great choice if you want to get into retro PCs, or if you still have yours and your sound card died, or you need a sound card or something. And it is also just kind of funny to me that I think once you passed a certain age, it's just probably going to be mind-blowing for some younger people. Like, wait a minute, you used to have to buy a separate card just to get basic audio? And yeah, that's what we had to go through. And depending on which card you got, sometimes you got better quality audio or not compatible with any games at all. I think I always just got the cheapest Sound Blaster when I was a kid because that's all I could afford. But yeah, it's a kind of a fun nostalgia thing to think about, the stuff we used to go through. But hey, if you're still a modern retro PC gamer, then $50 for this sound card, it's a really good deal. So please check out Reese's video for all of the details and everything that you need to know about it. I'm not hardcore into retro PCs, so my fumbling here is not doing this justice. Please check out Reese's video on it. Next up, the Fenrir optical drive emulator now has a beta firmware available that allows you to load games over the network via the built-in ESP32 chip. Now, this is a beta feature still, and it's been in alpha for a couple of years now, I think. And the beta still has some bugs with it where you can't load folders that have a ton of games in it. Audio streaming isn't quite stable just yet. And there's FMV issues with certain games and stuff like that. So it's very much a beta. However, you're still now able to load games off of your home network onto the Fenrir, which is incredible. And I think this is one of those things that it might become a scenario in which you load your favorite games onto the SD card, or the ones that will always have problems, because there's always going to be bigger games that glitch out when you do stuff like this. But for the most part, just leave the games you want to play on your network share, especially if you have something like Retro NES. And I think that's going to be a really cool way for lots of people to play. Now, there's also lots of people listening that are like, I don't have any of that. I'm not going to buy any of that just to load games on an SD card that I already have my favorites on. All that's totally fair. But a lot lot of us are huge nerds and already have things where we could just add a network share. And I think those of us are already understanding how you could make your entire setup easier, especially with all of the homebrew and translations and really cool stuff in the Saturn scene. Now you just leave your Fenrir and SD card as is and do all these changes on your home network or on your home PC and kind of just go from there. There's a few things to note. No spaces or underscores or hidden networks for the SSIDs would be supported, which is probably an ESP32 related bug. And there's a couple other things that you might want to note. The Shiro crew put together an awesome post here for everybody who wants to have some info on it, but I just think it is a really, really, really cool feature. And I hope that more people start to adopt it as time goes by, because loading off the network has made my life so much easier for doing all of this stuff, everything from Mister to PlayStation 2. I use RetroNAS for all of that, and I just really appreciate being able to do it. I do wish we would be able to get that functionality as well, but whatever. So thank you very much to the developer SED for adding this functionality, and please check out the post for all the info that you would need on it. Tito from Macho Nacho Productions recently put together a video showcasing what would be a real Sega Neptune. Now, this utilizes the same awesome case from DivizX that was made to look exactly like the Sega Neptune prototype, but it also uses Kosam's motherboard that basically took the schematics of the Genesis and 32X and combined them into one board, exactly like Sega would have wanted to do. I say would have wanted to do because anybody who's into the old video game hardware that's seen 90s Sega stuff knows that this is probably a better creation that they would have come out with. Not throwing shade, they had budget and time issues and they did their best, but this is a very high quality board that also integrates the audio and video circuits from the triple bypass, as well as a good power circuit that was designed by Zaxor and a whole bunch of other stuff. So I am just really thrilled for this. I think it is really, really cool for people who would be willing to go through the trouble for all of it. And that's the only real downside of this. There are a few people working on kits that sell these motherboards with everything populated that could possibly be bought new today. But no matter what, you're still going to have to transplant chips from Genesis and 32Xs. Now, I don't mind cannibalizing those as much, especially because most 32Xs I've ever owned barely worked at all. Not the fault of the main chips, but the overall design itself. So I think finding older Genesis 2 or Mega Drives that are beat up and broken and, really almost not salvageable, but still have working chips, same with the 32X, I think that there's enough of those out there to fulfill as many of us that might want to do something like this, but you still have to take those chips off and you still have to transplant them onto this board, which is not for the faint of heart. Tito did a great job at it, but this is not something I would be comfortable doing at all. And I might be able to do it, but it'd be way more likely that I'd screw it up. So this is just one of those things that I think, it's kind of an expert only thing or somebody with a lot of money in their pocket. Because remember, if you want one of these, you're going to have to get the 3D printed shell made from PCBWay, and that's about $350. Plus, you're going to need a Genesis. Probably a Genesis 2 would be best, and also a 32X, and you need to pay somebody to transplant the chips, and you either need to pay somebody to build this board or buy one pre-made. So, I mean, you're looking at really expensive. So this is one of those things that I do think we're going to see some of these floating around, and I think it's really cool. I just don't think this is going to be how all of us play our 32X and Genesis games, but I'm just really looking forward to trying it. My friend actually was the one who bought all of this stuff to have Tito do this, so I'm going to be able to try it and do some live streams with it fairly soon. So it's kind of a cool bonus of running RetroRGB is I get to borrow this stuff and try it for free. So thank you to my friend who wanted to do this. But the only other things I'll say is that while Kosam's board is incredible and I'm so happy to see it and I'm really appreciative of the work, I think the 3D printed case is what a lot more of us would be able to embrace and use, even if you just put your Genesis 2 motherboard in it, or maybe somebody might come up with a Mister board that drops right in. But I would love to see not a 3D printed, but an injection molded version that has everything you need. Nothing required from any original consoles. You just buy this and you drop whatever board you want in it. And I think there's enough Sega fans out there that would buy it. To be honest, I think there's enough Sega fans out there that would buy it just to have the case sitting on their shelf. You know, if it was $200 for absolutely everything, you could even have like little dummy controller ports in there in the front, so it looks like it's completed. I think there's a lot of us that would pay that to have a piece of hardware that never was, but probably would have failed anyway. But whatever, I don't know. But those are just my opinions. I hope we get to see all of this stuff. And thanks again to everybody involved in this project who put all this work into it. I just, you know, if you want to just search YouTube for the story of the Sega Neptune. I'm not going to regurgitate it here and waste your time, but it is just really cool to think that we finally have the ability to use this. And my gut's telling me it's going to be way more reliable than an actual 32X because you don't have all of those pieces slotted into each other. They're all built into one motherboard, but I'll do a live stream at some point soon to try it out. Next up, there's now an English translation available for the Japanese-only Sega Saturn game Arcana Strikes, which is a magic card-esque card battling role-playing game. And the patch was done by Team Medusa, the patch in translation, over the course of about a year. And there's some notable points. First, the game uses its own data caching system and does not require a RAM expansion cartridge. The cinematics use software subtitles where it kind of raises the FMVs up and then puts English subtitles underneath, allowing you to still see the original should you want to, which I think is a pretty cool little enhancement. And also, the game now supports 1 byte encoding, which means that 2 text characters are encoded in 1 byte of data, which allows for significant space savings, which is important when Japanese often requires fewer characters than English to get information across. So overall, if this is, you know, the type of game that you like playing now, if you don't read Japanese, you can actually experience it for the first time. And I always really appreciate these, even if it's not the style of game that I'm into, because I know the tremendous amount of work that goes into doing something like this. And it does open a game that a lot of people would like, up to people that could have never played it before. So as always, thank you to everybody who works on these translations, because I guarantee a lot more people appreciate it than you might realize, because I just think a lot of people get to play this and really love it and just don't have time to go sign up for an account in a forum and say thank you. So to everybody that does the translations, just know everybody really appreciates it. So thank you. Next up, TR Fight Stick just opened a second round of pre-orders on their Octopus arcade controller. I just did a quick unboxing video showing people what to expect when they get theirs, and I'll go a little bit more in depth with it soon, but there's a bunch of stuff I want to talk about with this. First and foremost, if you placed the original order for it, yes, they're late to ship, but they've already started shipping to customers, and you should get yours by the end of April. They sent out people who bought review units first, as is common in basically every industry, but everybody's should ship by the end of April, and this is a second batch of pre-orders that will start hitting production as soon as the minimum order is hit, and they should hit customers expected by the end of this year. There's always delays and stuff. You never really know with things like this. The first batch was delayed as well, but this is from a company that has had previous pre-orders. They've delivered. They don't have any, I've bought products from them before. So this isn't some fly-by-night company that you have to wonder why they're stacking pre-orders Polymega-esque. This is a company that's delivered before. So I personally wouldn't feel nervous to put an order in on the second batch. But if you are, you could always just wait and see for more detailed reviews to come out. I plan on doing some lag testing with this one. I'm probably going to send this one to Beast as well to hear his thoughts on it. For me, who's not a pro gamer, it feels like a heavy-duty fight stick. It's made out of metal, it's got good quality competition-grade buttons in it, and it's got a whole bunch of options. The basic overview is it's got a DB15 output so that you could connect it to Neo Geo consoles and Super Guns. It's also got a USB output, which connects to basically everything a PC controller could connect to. And it also has an RJ45 connector that allows you to connect it to many different original consoles. I put the full list here in the post if you're interested. All of that stuff was powered by a Brook Retro board, so it should be very low latency and perform well. Once again, I'll test it myself as soon as I get a chance to. And this also, in the top row of buttons, you could select things like auto fire, but the little LCD screen in there also has a built-in VMU for Dreamcast. So if you buy the Dreamcast controller cord for the DB15 or for the RJ45 Dreamcast connector, it will show up as a VMU, which I think is a very, very interesting feature. The other thing that TR Fight Stick has announced at the same time was their pre-orders are now open on a Kraken spinner controller. However, that is a little bit different. So the Kraken is a spinner that's designed as an arcade replacement. They offer plates for it. So if you have something like a candy cab, like a Blast City or whatever, you could be able to integrate it right in. But it is meant as a high-end replacement for existing spinners. You can get a version of the spinner with a faceplate for the Octopus, but you could only have either or. You either have the button layout faceplates or you have it with a control stick and the spinner, but not other buttons. And it's just one of those things where if this is something you're interested in, you probably already know what I'm talking about. But this is not a scenario in which you have a fight stick that has a full complete set of buttons and a spinner. I have that installed in my Vuelix, which is huge. It's like the size of a table. And I think they made the right choice by just making this, you pick whichever panel you want, which you could buy all of the alternative plates on their site as well if you want. But it's one of those things where you just pick which configuration you would like from it. So the only other thing to note about the Kraken is if you're putting it in original arcade machines, obviously wire it the same way. But if you're putting it in the Octopus, it will only work through the USB port. It's not going to work through the DB15 or from original consoles or anything like that, which makes sense. I mean, that's probably something you'd be using with emulation or a Mister anyway. So that feels, feels like the right choice. The only other thing to mention is you can get $50 off if you use the coupon code RetroRGB. I don't like doing stuff like that. I just think it is my personal opinion. I'm not pushing this on anybody, but I think the price should always just be the cheaper price. And while affiliate codes are nice, and I'm always going to use them where they're available, that will never skew my decision on if I like or dislike a product. And most of the things I cover don't have affiliate links anyway, so whatever. But I just think that coupon codes I just think the price should be cheaper. But that puts me in a weird position because am I not going to give you the coupon code to get $50 off? I mean, that would kind of be stupid for me not to mention it. So while I don't normally like participating in these, that's enough of a discount where I wanted to just say, use coupon code RetroRGB for $50 off. This isn't sponsored. They let me borrow the stick. I'm going to be reviewing it and sending it on to the next reviewer who's going to send it on to the next, et cetera, et cetera. So, you could troll me in the comments if you somehow think there's a problem with me borrowing something to review, but I don't really care. So that's kind of everything you need to know about it. It feels like an awesome stick for people that want all of these features. I mean that with respect. If you don't need or want all of these features, you can get cheaper stuff out there. And if you're just getting into like arcade style gaming at home, you could just start yourself out with a really cheap one. You could build one out of a cardboard box and buy some buttons if you really wanted to. But before you get sticker shock at the $400-ish price point, definitely think about what's inside of this and how much you would have to spend to recreate it from scratch with new parts on your own. And then it starts to make sense as why this is expensive. I mean, it's heavy. It feels like one of the competition grade controllers you'd see going into Arcade Brooklyn at one of their tournaments or something like that. But I'm really looking forward to doing deep dive lag testing for as many of the modes as I have the ability to do. I don't know when I'm going to get to that, though. I might actually send this over to Beast for review first, have him send it back for the lag testing, and then send it on to the next one. But I'm kind of backlogged pretty hard, but I do want to dig into it. And I do hope that as soon as people start to receive theirs from the first batch, within the next month, then people post their thoughts as well, because it just seems awesome. But there's so many different features that it really needs multiple reviews for people to truly see what it could do. So me personally, I think it's awesome. I had planned on buying one no matter what anyway, but now I'm just happy I get to really show everybody else what it could do and then have some other reviewers try it too. So sorry to talk so long about this one, but there was just a lot to cover and a lot of concerns that I wanted to try to put people at ease with. Here's just a quick one. The RetroTINK 4K CE is now in stock from a UK reseller, 8-Bit Mods, and it's also still in stock in the US main RetroTINK store, which Mike had always planned on trying to make enough for everybody in this batch anyway, so that makes sense. But I also wanted to post an unboxing video so you could see exactly what you're getting when yours arrives, and just wanted to share this as well. So if you want more info and the video that tells you how this differs from the 4K Pro, check out the post. And if you already bought those, hey, check out the super short unboxing video just to see what you expect, or don't be surprised when you open it. But it's just well packed, comes with everything you need. And I don't know, I like sharing these. I guess also post in the comments if you have a time. Do you like seeing short little unboxing videos, or am I just annoying everybody with too many posts? I never really know what to think about that, because for me personally, I don't really care if somebody posts an unboxing video a day. If it's something that I want to see, I'll watch it. If not, I'll just keep scrolling. But people tend to have pretty passionate opinions about that. So let me know what you think. And yeah, available from 2 stores with more coming soon. There should be a couple other stores that get stock of it. I'll probably just update this post and repost on social media when that happens, but check out links if you're interested. Well, that's it for this week. Before I go, I wanted to thank everybody who posted their questions of what they wanted to see in my upcoming LG C4 OLED review. And I read every question. I copied and pasted all of them into a document to make sure I could reference it so I can get to as many of them as possible. I did just want to mention, though, that please keep them coming if you have more things that you didn't think about last week. But I'm going to keep this video on topic because it would be so easy to just spend 20 minutes digging into tweaking the RetroTINK to make things ever so perfect for this model OLED panel versus others, where I think it's probably best for the context of this video just to be like, use Kuro's new profile, here's the one I use, but here's the settings that apply to this TV that wouldn't apply to other scenarios type of thing. Also, there were people who were asking specifics that didn't require specifics. One example is if you're connecting Mister, my suggestion, set your Mister to 1080p 5x, plug it into the TV, crank the sharpness up. And the sharpness is going to be a pretty interesting little section of this video, so hopefully that'll put things into perspective for people. I do want to keep it on topic, and the only thing I might stray a little bit off from is I hooked up a Philips Ambilight Hue thing to it. I'll be honest, I laughed at that thing when it first came out. I couldn't understand why anybody would want one or why that was a good idea. And then I saw some reviewers that do very good reviews who said they liked it. So I thought, let me just try it. I could always return it if it's as dumb as I think. It's not dumb. I love it. It's not for everybody. I'll try to show that in this video, but I want to get the video out as soon as possible because there's still crazy sales, and there probably will be up until when the 2025 editions start to come out in a couple of months. So I want to try to get this video out right away so enough people see it so they can decide, do they want to pick one of these up on a big sale as just like I got, or if they want to just wait till the next big upgrade, which I guess a short spoiler, if you don't own an OLED and you've been wanting one, this is an awesome TV to buy, and the discounts are good enough to probably want to push you over the edge. But if you have an OLED that's 2020 or newer, you don't need to upgrade. Yours already does basically everything, and unless yours is broken or something, it's a totally fine TV. Don't worry about upgrading, and there is no like holy crap killer feature, something that everybody needs in this one. It's just an awesome TV, and upgrading from a decade-old OLED, I was very impressed at the quality difference between this and the one that I bought almost 10 years ago now. So also at an open box super sale for less than half the sticker price of original launch. So I get lucky with those, but yeah, so just I'm going to try to get that video out as soon as possible. I'm going to try to include everything into it. Keep asking your questions. If you want to just buy one now, the link, affiliate links in the description. You can get mad at me for using them if you want, but I'd be stupid not to. So also, it's the same price for you either way. But anyway, thanks to everybody who watches, listens, plays nicely in the comments, and especially thank you to people who support in absolutely any way, including just subscribing to the YouTube channel, clicking on affiliate links. I mean, everything helps. So thank you all so much. It really is you who's keeping all this stuff going. And I try really hard to live up to expectations and try to make this all worth it for you. So thank you all so much, and I'll see you next week. This week's Roundup is brought to you by Neo Paradigm Entertainment, connecting Southeast Asian influencers with opportunities in the West.